Oh, sweet. Where do you go hiking?
Out behind my friend's house. They have like a bunch of woods out there, so I went up through.
Awesome. Cool. All right. So here's the bell ringer for today. So describe what a superpower is. Who are the two superpowers after World War II? Don't say like a superhuman ability either. What do you think? Yeah, super soldier. Super strength. Cody, how's your weekend? It was long. Was that a good thing or not? I was at Pizza Light Friday night. Got a pizza.
Last night, got quesadillas.
Did you?
8 o'clock, yeah.
What do
Nice.
you think about quesadillas?
Get them all summer.
Did we have a Bellringer Friday?
Yes, we did.
I watched Napoleon Dynamite too much, and now I say quesadillas.
Quesadillas.
Oh, there's a lady that calls them quesadillas.
Yeah.
Well, count. Why?
Huh? I think prom, yeah. How we doing on these? How we doing? Finishing up?
I don't ever remember talking about these.
Oh, we talked about two of them right at the end of World War II. I think you know who they
I
are.
probably do.
I think you can throw a guess out there.
Yeah, I don't remember talking about these. I'm pretty sure I know.
We didn't talk about them, Haley. Well, who do you think the two superpowers are? All right, so Soviet Union, U.S., right? There you go.
That's what I found out last night.
What's up?
India lost the most lives out of any country in World War II.
India.
Yes.
Dang.
Over 1 million.
Really?
They were involved in the war fighting Japan and Germany.
Well, Soviet Union lost 27 million. Yeah. That's still a lot, though. Still a lot.
What did India have to do with anything?
Well, they're ally of Great Britain, so wherever they're fighting, Great Britain was probably throwing those people in the war. Same as World War One. It might not have anything to do with it, but get involved.
India also has the most COVID cases in recent weeks.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, that's a good current event, Jakari. Thanks for letting me know. Alyssa, current event for Friday? Yeah.
Remind me on Wednesday after I get rid of the baby.
You're going to do it Wednesday?
Remind me after I get rid of
Oh,
the baby.
I'll remind you.
Because right now I'm too tired to think about anything.
To wake you up a lot. All right, hey. So, what is a superpower? Describe what a superpower is. What is a superpower? Chris, go ahead.
Superpower is a world dominant country. Basically, industries, manufacturing, all that economy. And superpowers after World War II involved the likes of the Soviet Union, United States country.
All right, good. Good job. Good job. So, 1 second here. Okay, here we go. All right, so yeah, superpower is a country that is industrialized, obviously, that is advanced, okay, strong military power, and they have some sort of influence throughout the world, okay. And I know I talked a little bit briefly about Europe and parts of Asia, kind of setting the stage of the Cold War on Friday. And these superpowers, which involves the United States and the Soviet Union, after World War II, it's up to these two countries to spread their influence. For the United States, capitalism, democracy, free elections, okay, to the rest of the world. And on the other side, we have the Soviet Union, And they're going to try to spread communism throughout Europe and parts of Asia. All right, so it's up to these two countries to try to spread their influence. And we're going to talk today about Truman and how he's going to try to stop this spread of communism. All right, it's his goal to make sure that communism doesn't become prevalent in parts of Europe and parts of Asia, which today we'll get into somewhat of the Korean War. Not too much, though. Not too much. I don't want to move too fast. But what do we have? How many more days? 27 or something? 26 school days? Oh, what is it? I don't even know. Around there? Yeah, something around there. So we pretty much have a month left of school, and then you get through the Cold War, and we'll get through it. We'll get to it. All right, so that's what a superpower is. It has some sort of influence around the world, and it's industrialized, has a strong military, and we know right around this time, 1946, it was the only country in the world that has an atomic weapon, a super weapon. Yeah, the United States. Okay, so we'll talk more probably towards the end of the week, maybe even by Wednesday, how the Soviet Union's coming about with their technology. And for a short time, it looks like they're actually having more advancements than us, especially at the space race, okay, which we'll get to. All right, good. Is there any question on a superpower? So if I talk about superpowers, we know what they are. Okay, and what type of influence they have. All right, here are the terms for today. So last thing with World War II, and that is the Nuremberg trials. So the Nuremberg trials, I'll just go over it with the vocab. That's it, because I mean, there's a lot of people in Germany, especially, and Japan, kind of, but more so Germany, that were trialed at the end of World War II for their crimes. And then we have the Greek Civil War and the Truman Doctrine. Tomorrow we'll talk about the Marshall Plan. Did you time him out? Her out. Shut her down for the day. What does that mean? That you have to change it?
I'm still confused how that works.
Yeah, I don't know.
Then you gotta figure it out.
Yeah,
It makes different sounds for everything.
Really?
Basically.
Hmm.
That's the only good part about it. You know, right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
imagine it turns into like a Chucky at night.
That'd be scary. Be really scary.
That's why I don't like this thing looking at
Yeah, nightmares.
Mr. Bauer,
Yeah.
if Hitler wouldn't have killed himself, what do you think his consequence would have been?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think they would even got to trial him, because the people of Germany and the Soviets would have took care of that.
Do you
Do
think
you
they would
think,
have
do you think
done
Stalin would have wanted him to live and then like torture him, or
I don't think even when we got to Stalin.
do you think like he just let the Soviets just like kill him?
Well, I hate to talk about that stuff, but yeah, he didn't want anybody, the Soviets or anyone really, to get to him. If anything, he wanted to try to surrender to the U.S. and Great Britain, but that still would have been the same outcome, I think. All right, so what do we have for the Nuremberg trials? What do we have? Cody, what do you have for the Nuremberg trials?
A series of military tribunals held after World War II by the Allies.
All right. What else can we add to that, Chris? What again you add to that?
It just race laws that pretty much created on the 15th September 1935.
Okay, all right, so the Nuremberg trials, not the laws. I think you had the laws down.
Oh, correct.
Yeah. The trials were placed after World War II, and this was to trial, and a lot of them were put to death. after World War II, these high-ranking German officials for their doings of the Holocaust, right, of this genocide, and the war crimes that were placed on these individuals after World War II. Okay, there had to be something done because of those obviously issues that happened during World War II, even before it, in Germany with the Holocaust, and many of them were trialed and put to death. Okay, put to death. And they have the videos of the trials. You guys can watch them on your own. I think they might have did a Netflix series on it as well. But these trials were placed after World War II, and like I said, they trialed these men, these high-ranking German officials, because of what they did during World War II with the Holocaust and many different war crimes that occurred. All right, so those are the Nuremberg trials. Again, I'm not going to focus on it too much, just because it's really the ending of the war and the trials placed on these men that were a part of these harsh crimes. All right, the Greek Civil War. What do we have? What do we have here? Ethan, what do you have for the Greek Civil War?
Between the Greek government army and the Democratic Army of Greece, the military branch of the Communist Party of Greece from 1946 to 1949.
All right, good job. So 1946, this was a civil war, and we all know there's Democratic side of it and a communist side of it. And this was really the fight for a new style of government after World War II. And this was where Truman really had to step up. Okay, and this, like I said, could have been the first of many different countries in Europe to follow communism if it wasn't for the U.S. to intervene and try to help provide and support the democratic side of the Civil War. Okay, fighting for a republic, fighting for democracy, free elections, capitalism, private business, free business. Okay, Angel, you have that? Okay, you're not on your phone back there, are you? Oh, okay. Yeah, so the Greek Civil War, we know where Greece is, the Mediterranean crisis. That's another term that they call it. Okay, and it not only as influenced Greece, but Turkey as well. Okay, Turkey's a country right here. Okay, remember we talked about the Ottoman Empire during World War One? That's kind of where that's at. Right? So Greece and Turkey influenced in this Mediterranean crisis. Okay, and it was up to Truman again to try to stop the spread of communism and support the democratic side of this civil war. And obviously, the other side, the communist side, who are they backed by? Yeah, Soviet Union. Okay, Soviet Union. All right, finally, what do we have for the Truman Doctrine? Shikari, go ahead.
It was Truman's promise to help the countries fight against communism.
Yeah, good job. And it's not only going to start, it's not only going to stop here with Greek Civil War. It's going to continue the Korean War. It's going to continue to the Vietnam War, right? This fighting, I guess you could say, the support to these democratic nations are going to, really end in 1991. So long after Truman's already gone, right? After he dies, this support, this idea, really starts with Truman right at the end of World War II. It's like, wait a minute, I thought we were allies with the Soviet Union during the war. Yeah, we were. But now, with these two superpowers that emerged, they're going to try to spread their influence across the world. And this was a huge fear. Communism would spread to more areas, especially in Asia, Eastern Europe. They would get rid of free elections, obviously, because they don't want the people to have a say in their government, okay, or have an opinion. And government controlled everything. So people won't have the ability to run their own business, to have the ability to choose representatives that they would like in their form of government. And that was a fear for Truman and the rest of America. That's a Truman Doctrine. He's going to start this by sending $400 million to Greece, the democratic Greece, for support, military aid, supplies, okay? And this is a part of this Cold War where maybe we don't actually send troops, okay, officials over there, military officials, but we were sending aid through weapons, through advancements in supplies that these countries might not have, probably didn't have, obviously, that they couldn't create on their own to try to stop this spread of communism. All right, is there any questions on those three terms? Again, the Nuremberg trials, okay, usually I try to get into a little bit more, but because of time, want to move on. It's really just trialing these German head officials that were part of these wrongdoings, these horrific events, these terrible events during World War II, with the Holocaust and war crimes during World War II. All right. So we need to set an example that this isn't allowed to happen ever again. Okay. All right, so the threat of communism. Threat of communism. So this is the hammer and sickle, the emblem, the symbol, the logo. I guess the hammer got kind of cut off there in that picture. Oh well. And this is really the buildup of the military of both sides, the United States and the Soviet Union. And throughout the Soviet Union, and even North Korea today, you see it a lot, and somewhat of China, these military parades where they march down the streets and show the people of their country what new advancements they have. And now all of a sudden, you see missiles, these ICBM missiles, okay, all established now, and this is a new form of weapon, especially that they could use without even having to risk any soldiers. Okay, you don't have to send any airplanes across to try to have a bombing run. You can launch them, somewhat of your safety, of your men's safety, your opposition. And then right there at the bottom, who's that guy? Who do you think that guy is? What's his name? Who is it, Chris? Yeah, Eisenhower. Good job. Dwight Eisenhower. Remember, he came up with what? What invasion did he come up with? Haley Claire? I see your hand go up? Or you scratch your nose? What did he come up with? What invasion? Remember? In World War II? 1944, June 6th? Yeah, the D-Day invasion. Good job. So he came up with the D-Day invasion, even Operation Torch, right? And he was very successful. And the United States especially wanted this man in charge to try to stop this spread of communism. He's going to be strong on him, right? He was a military general, a superior military general. He's the man in charge after Truman, which we'll talk about probably towards the end of the week. All right, we talked about the Yalta Conference. No need to do that anymore. That was important. Potsdam, same thing. No need to talk about it. All right, real quick. So this Iron Curtain. I know I mentioned it briefly Friday about this Iron Curtain. And this is really what Churchill describes to many of the American people to try to promote them to have some sort of influence in Europe and the rest of the world. Could Great Britain do it by themselves? Could they support these democratic nations in Europe? No, they couldn't. They couldn't. They're really impacted a lot worse, obviously, than the U.S. And we see the U.S. as a stronger industrial power and obviously an influence with military supplies and armaments, you name it, okay, to try to stop the spread of communism. And Churchill, which I'll show a video towards the end of class here. I can't do it now because of the recording, but I'll show you a video here soon. I have a picture. I'll show you a picture of it. But Churchill actually visits the U.S., a small college in Missouri. And he's not even prime minister anymore at this point after World War II. So this is a year after World War II, and he's visiting the U.S., a small college in Missouri, and he gives this speech to try to describe to this the people, the citizens, and people part of this college. And it was broadcasted all through the radio broadcasts and on television. And he was giving a speech and describing to the American people that, hey, we can't do this by ourselves. We need some sort of help and aid from the U.S. and to try to show the U.S. and explain to the people that this is a just worthy cause, that we need to stop the spread of communism. And he gave the speech. He referred this boundary that the Soviet Union established in Europe as the Iron Curtain, because that's really what it was. Okay, when we get to the Berlin Wall, it's literally a wall in Berlin separating the city, okay, the capital of Germany, into two different sections. You have a democratic side and a communist side. Okay, and I'll talk a little bit more of that probably next week. But Churchill, he was really concerned by this. Why was he a little bit more concerned than the people of the U.S.? Why do you think he made this an objective for himself to go to the United States and deliver this speech? What do you think? We had media coverage. We kind of knew what was going on. But why do you think it was Churchill's, I guess you say, priority to go to the U.S. and deliver this speech to the American citizens? What do you think? Kale, what do you think? Yeah, he's way closer, right? He's in the backyard. He's in Europe. Okay, he sees this unfolding. Right? He sees, I guess you say, the turmoil in many of these Eastern European countries. And I'll talk about it through the progression of the Cold War chapter here. There's a reason why these Eastern European countries don't develop much after World War II. There's a reason why you can see some of the destructions, even all the way up into the 1980s, 1990, okay, of the destruction still from World War II in these Eastern European countries. Do you think they had any support from the Soviet Union? Do you think the Soviet Union had the ability to just give them money and help rebuild? Not really, okay, not really. So when you look at pictures, when you look at just the way of life of many of these citizens in Eastern Europe compared to Western Europe, it was really night and day. Okay, it was night and day. You see advancements from the Western side of Europe. That was supported by the US because of democracy, because of free market, trade. And on the Eastern side, not so much, okay? Soviet Union had different priorities. The space race, developing atomic weapons. They didn't really care about rebuilding those areas of Eastern Europe, okay? They couldn't leave though, right? They had this Iron Curtain and make sure it was protected by the Soviet Union, by soldiers, troops, and enforcement to make sure that these people would never leave. If they would try to flee, which many people did, to try to have a better life, okay, a lot of them would be obviously killed or placed in prison. All right, but Churchill, the former prime minister of Great Britain, thought it was his due diligence, his goal to try to explain to the American public what's going on in Europe. So there's another reason why he did this. And one of the main reasons was because what did the U.S. do after World War I? Did we still have a say at the world international level? Did we try to have any type of relations or cooperations with the rest of the world? Not so much. Yeah, I guess you could say the Dawes Plan, but did we have any type of League of Nations? Were we involved with the League of Nations? No, we weren't. Okay, we weren't. So Churchill wanted to make sure that the U.S. didn't leave, right? That they didn't have some sort of relationship and say, and I could say presence in Europe after World War II. He didn't want the same mistake to happen. Right? And from the looks of it, the Soviet Union, they were spreading like wildfire, this common after World War II, the Soviet Union continues to spread. All right, so he gives that Iron Curtain speech. All right, real quick. I know I talked about it short, just brief, but it was up to Truman to really push for this containment. Right, so U.S. committed to stop the spread of communism, $400 million given to Greece to try to protect democracy, inspire democracy in Southern Europe along the Mediterranean Sea. We know where Greece is, right? Greece is right here, okay? And Turkey was real close as well, right? They call that the Mediterranean crisis. So the civil war going on in Greece and Turkey. And after this Iron Curtain speech, Truman was fully supportive of backing these democratic nations in Europe, specifically along the Mediterranean Sea. If communism would spread there, look out, right? There goes free elections. There goes free market. There goes business partners, right? There goes inspiring trading partners that would boost everybody's economy all throughout the world, in Europe and America. We can't allow this to go communistic. All right. So again, Truman Doctrine. This would continue on long after Truman's gone. All right, this will continue on with the Cold War, which we'll talk about more probably tomorrow, and then the Vietnam War eventually. Say maybe next week, 2 weeks from now. Okay, and the spread of maybe communism to the Middle East. It's up to the U.S. to try to stop this spread. Because right around this time, China is transitioning to communism. Right? They're going through a civil war right at the end of World War II. It was interesting. They were fighting, literally, the Japanese, and instantly just turned on each other right after the war. Okay, right after the war. And that was to see if they would be communistic or democratic. All right, so I'm going to talk about this more tomorrow. Okay, but the Marshall Plan, this is really just going to be finishing the Truman Doctrine. All right, this is going to be, I guess you say, the next step of the Truman Doctrine. So $400 million, that's great. That's awesome. And Greece does, the Democratic Greece does win this side, right? They do win this war, but there's still going to be riots. There's still going to be some sort of violence in Greece for a short period of time after this war as they try to overthrow this democratic government. But Truman was successful. He stopped this spread in the Mediterranean. And one of the biggest things was, guess what? Turkey and where Greece is connected has control to it. And if the U.S. can control that, what can they do to many exports of the Soviet Union? They can charge them, right? Yeah, they can charge them a lot of money to do so. And that was a great way to do what? Prevent that spread of communism and stop their influence to these countries in Eastern Europe and eventually, right, to the Pacific. You got that, Cody? Yeah. All right, but the Marshall Plan created by Secretary of State George Marshall, U.S. gave $13 billion to Western Europe. And his goal with this was to try to provide some sort of assurance, try to provide a rebuilding after World War II. Give them funded money, right, to try to rebuild and accept free market, private business, industries, factories, anything to help support trading partners with the U.S. So the U.S. is benefiting off this, and these Western European countries are as well. So provided food, fuel, economic growth. And we decided, well, we can offer this to the Eastern European countries as well to try to inspire capitalism, try to inspire free market, private business. Because these Eastern European countries that Stalin had control over, right, they weren't developing. They were still in the destruction of World War II. A lot of their buildings were destroyed, right? And what do you think Stalin said of that? Do you think he accepted it? Now, if he would have accepted it, that may have spurred some action, right? That may have spurred some sort of, I guess, say, retaliation against communism in those areas. So Stalin refused it. He said, no, we don't want it. Because if this happens, the people of these areas might push for democracy. And that would be terrible for his communist control. So already after World War II, these Western European countries, okay, they are seeing economic growth. They are seeing benefit. And they are rebuilding after World War II. Eastern European countries under the Soviet Union, not so much. Not so much. They have jobs in Western Europe, right? They have a higher standard of living. Some better outcomes after the war already. And this is a term, like I stated the other day on Friday, containment. All right, that's Truman's philosophy. That's Truman's motive for this whole, this post-World War II, containment. And that's a policy to keep communism from spreading, plain and simple, in Eastern Europe, and eventually, like I said, we'll talk about it in Korea. Okay? So Greece is protected thanks to the Truman Plan, and they're supported by this Marshall Plan. Okay? Again, I'll talk about the Marshall Plan a little bit more tomorrow. I have a short reading for you to do in class. You only have to do it for homework or anything. I want to assign you homework, I promise. All right, so again, this Mediterranean crisis was huge. So back in Greece and Turkey, right, the democratic United States, this is a way to control the trade that the Soviet Union's really spilling out to these Eastern European countries. Okay, we can charge them a lot for it, which the U.S. did. This is a great way to try to contain communism, okay, and stop that spread of the Marshall Plan. We are helping provide for these democratic nations. Let's see here real quick. All right, I'll talk about that tomorrow. All right, so here is somewhat of a map of what this looks like. I know I attached it to Friday, but again, I just want to show you real quick what this looks like with communism and democracy in Europe. So communism right there, that black line, this black bolded line here, that is the Iron Curtain, right? That's what Churchill describes this Iron Curtain as. And Europe's literally divided in half. And then, like I said, with the Truman Doctrine, we could help support Greece with this civil war and have control of trade through the Mediterranean Sea. That's a huge benefit for the democratic nations, right? That's a huge benefit for the U.S. And a part of Truman's, what was that called? What was his policy? Yeah, the Truman Doctrine, but what was that called? That term that he's really going to use as platform as for his presidency. Starts with a C. It's one of your vocab terms. Kale? Containment. Good job. Good job. All right. So that's what Europe looks like. We'll talk more about Asia tomorrow, maybe Wednesday. All right. So that is the meeting for today.